welcome back to the Great Scott Podcast. Today, I am joined by legendary entertainer, Mr. John
Legendary,
Davidson.
huge icon, television. Uh, Thank you so much, Michael. I didn't mean to interrupt your intro. Excuse me, were you going to go on some more? I didn't mean to cut you off. You were.
Oh no, no. I was going to just give you the round of applause for it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Thanks. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you doing?
Just fine. I'm sitting here in Club Sandwich, which is my performance venue in Sandwich, New Hampshire. But which I'm getting ready to open July 2nd. But I had the best time about a month ago. I did a Zoom like this of a thing called Hollywood Museum Squares, and had more fun than I've had in a long time. It was produced by a bunch of very clever people. John Ricci. How do I?
John Ricci.
Ricci. I better say his name right. He's my producer.
Ricci Jr.
Yeah, man, he's a pistol. He pulled this thing together. We had incredible guests, and I just had so much fun doing it. Can we talk about that a little bit today? I'm so proud of the show.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But let's talk about you first.
Okay.
John, I think that with your permission, I think that it is safe to say that you're a musician. I think music is your first love, and then everything else that you've ever done is secondary to all that. Would you say that's fair?
I don't know. If I would put musician first, then I would work harder on playing better guitar. My guitar playing is okay, but I use the guitar to tell stories with and to support my voice.
Yeah.
I think singer-songwriter is more a singer-songwriter. Storyteller is what I love more. You know, I was a theater arts major in school, not a music major, and I went to New York City after graduating from. Oh, I have my T-shirt. I didn't mean to wear. I really didn't. This is my.
No worries.
Is it backwards? Is it backwards in the thing?
Is that Denison?
Denison University in Granville, Ohio, is where I got my bachelor's degree in theater arts, and from there I went to New York City and started on Broadway, and so I would say storytelling and theater, but I use music and funny stuff to tell those stories. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's one thing I've heard about you. I mean, you are also a storyteller. You like telling stories wherever you go or whenever you perform.
Well, I mean, also in a song, I like to find songs that tell a story, setting them up with a story. But Sammy Davis, why did I flash on this? But a book came out on Sammy Davis called Yes, I Can. I guess it was written by by a ghostwriter with Sammy Davis years ago. And I was a big admirer of him and his career, just all well-rounded entertainer. And he said, you've got to make them care about you before you start singing so that they will come with you on this storytelling journey. If people don't care about you, then what are you doing? You're just flailing in the wind. But if you can make people care, you can touch them. You can inspire them, make them laugh, cry, feel something about their life, and maybe get romantic or whatever. But they have to care about you. And when I speak to young people's groups, and I say, you've got to find something about you that makes people care about what you're doing. And for some people, it comes naturally. We just care what happens to them. And for other people, we just don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean this when I say this, John, you've made us care for a long, long time. And I've thoroughly enjoyed your career following you, not just with Squares, but you've done other stuff as well. And you have someone who cares right here.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. I started long before you were born, my friend. But I'm glad that you came along, because then I can do your podcast.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about theater and major, or that you were a theater major. I don't know if this was your first play or not, but you were with Bert Lahr, and from there, your career kind of just went skyrocketed from there because a man named Bob Bonner, who also discovered Carol Burnett and Bob Newhart, discovered you while you were doing that play.
Well, thank you for reading up on me. Yeah. Uh, I got to New York City and got very lucky. I auditioned. Bob Banner saw me in a Broadway show and signed me to a long-term contract and put me on television. But when I got to New York in the summer of '63, I'd already done 3 seasons of summer stock, and I'd already been doing a lot of plays and musicals and stuff, and studied voice and acting and dance and a little bit of dancing. But I was an oddity in New York, I think, in the mid '60s, in that I was so Midwest. We had a thing called a Denison hello, where you walk across the quad and everybody said hello to everybody. Well, I had a tendency to do that on 42nd Street in New York City and met a lot of very strange people. But I was an oddity. It seemed like the other actors were more like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. And I think I stood out because I came from a very conservative family, and I went to school in the Midwest, and I was a little, that's what made me unusual, I think. I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't know I was so square, and I still am. I don't know. It's been great for me being with theater people. That's why I'm in the theater, is because of the people. I think they're people who are curious about life and are always asking, well, why? Why do we do that?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing to ask. Why? What does that mean? What are we doing? You know.
So to go along with what you're saying, your family, you're the son of not one but 2 Baptist ministers.
Yeah.
So you grew up in the church. Was your plan? Well, let me ask you a 2-part question on this. Number one, was what was your career going to be in the clergy at first, and then also have you taught at all?
Yes, in a way. I wanted to be closer to my dad. My dad was a stoic, very reserved, very dignified man. My mother was the theatrical one, and that's right. I think learned to tell stories from my mom. But I think I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted him to like me. Of course, he loved me very much, and it was a very loving family. But so I went to Denison as a philosophy major originally. I don't know what I was going to do that. Maybe open a little philosophy shop and sell philosophy. I don't know. But I actually went down to the theater arts department because someone said, if you really want to be a minister, you ought to get some theater. Because to be a good minister, you have to know theatrics. You know.
Yeah.
Think of the great orators who are religious leaders. And I went down to the theater and really realized that what I really wanted to do is to get up in front of people and find some way of playing the role, playing different roles. Maybe I was trying to escape myself. You know, we're getting too psychological here, but theater's all about role playing. And I think we all play roles. Michael Scott, right now you're playing a role of the moderator of a podcast, and you're not the same as you are when you're going to bed at night or getting up. I mean,
this is how I always am, John. This is how I always am.
No. It's a lot of life is role playing, and it's very good. If somebody says, we've got a job here for an IBM executive, can you do that? And you should say, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And because you're going to learn how to play that role. And so a lot of life is, we could call it faking it, but it's better to call it role playing. So growing up in a preacher's family puts you on display. I was the preacher's kid. I had to represent my dad's church, and so I was very much on display all through high school. But I took several courses in philosophy. One was comparative religions of the world, where I studied all the religions of the world, and that was a basic philosophy course. And then another one was Logic 101, and I tended to use logic to approach all these different religions. And it just I've wrestled with religion for years, and I don't mean to make this podcast be all about religion, but I about 10 or 15 years ago, I finally said, you know what, I'm secular. I'm an atheist. I'm not religious at all. Uh, I'm not. I can be moral. I don't have to have a an imaginary friend or a boogeyman in the sky to help me be moral. I can be moral just as people were long before Jesus some of the religious leaders that we know. I think you know what's right and wrong, and the church does great things, but the church has also killed a lot of people. And oh my goodness,
yeah.
so we could. Okay, next topic.
Next, okay. Next topic. All right, let's go on to there. Now, going along with your career, you've gotten to do a lot of really cool stuff, and one of them that I was reading about was you got to open for Jack Benny.
Oh, my first time in Las Vegas, it was Caesar's Palace. Caesar's Palace had just opened, and Jack Benny wanted to present a newcomer, a boy singer, and a girl singer. And Alicia Kashi, is that name? That name just came into my brain. I think that was her name. She was the girl singer. Oh, and a little violin player, because Jack Benny played violin, sort of. And so he had this little violin player on. Yeah, so he presented me at Caesar's Palace in '66, and that started my Las Vegas career. Then I went on to play the major showrooms. The Riviera, the MGM, then it's called Ballet. What's it, Ballet now? Desert Inn, but the Hilton. I played the Elvis showroom many times at the Hilton, and did a lot of Las Vegas shows, and enjoyed that whole Las Vegas scene for quite a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that was quite the show. I mean, there was not just you, but Jack as well, and quite a few other big names in that show as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great chance to get started. He kind of took me under his wing, and we did a little comedy talk segment with him. He's a very hardworking man, and he, of course, is a legend, Jack Benny.
Absolutely.
I think he I think he brought Wayne Newton. I think Wayne Newton is grateful to Jack Benny for getting started as well, and many other people.
As well, absolutely. Now, now you've kind of performed in every kind of aspect, but one I want to talk about is you were performing in Beverly Hills one day, and then something just erupted. And I'll let you tell the story on what happened there, because because it looks like that you know what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, this is something that I haven't talked a lot. Matter of fact, I didn't want to do any interviews about it for the first 10 years after it happened in '77. I think May 27th of '77, if I remember correctly. It was a fire. It was at that point the worst nightclub fire in America. 166 people passed away, and it was a great tragedy. And at that time, I was asked to do all sorts of shows and interviews, and even endorse smoke alarms, and it was I just didn't talk about it at all, and I don't want to dwell on it today. But I lost my musical director in the fire, and 6 members of the band just because they didn't leave. If someone smells smoke, leave the building immediately. Don't wait to see the fire. If you see smoke, leave the building. You know.
Do they know how the fire started there?
Yeah, it was a catering house. It had lots of banquet halls, and it was an electrical fire in a wall, and gradually spread to the whole place. And so it was a great tragedy in Newport, Kentucky, out of Cincinnati. And it's called the Beverly Hills Club. And it was so unfortunate. A lot of families were affected by that. A lot of great people were lost.
So, John, I also want to ask you, you're considered by many to be one of the nicer guys in all of Hollywood, and I would definitely agree with that, sir. And being in Hollywood for as long as you have, I'm sure you've seen all the ugly sides of every kind of Hollywood that can be. But how have you managed to stay so humble and kind in a not so humble and kind business?
Oh, man. First of all, I'm not always humble and kind. I can be really stupid. And I've gotten carried away with ego just like everybody else. I've been unkind to people that I regret so much. I think maybe it's the way I was brought up, to try to see the best in people and try to be kind. But I don't always do that. You paint a very nice picture of me, and I appreciate it. But I can give you a list of people who would think that I'm really just stupid.
So can I.
Yeah.
So can I.
We all can.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I mean, I try to be, but sometimes I just don't think before I speak or act. And I've done a lot of unkind things in my career that I regret, and in my life. And I deal with that now. I'm 79. I'm going to be in December. I'm going to be 80.
No.
And oh yes, and I've had parts replaced. I've had a lot of aftermarket parts put into this vehicle. I just have my eyes done, and my ears. I wear hearing aids, and but I feel great. I'm singing as well, I think, as I ever have, and
great.
But I haven't always been a nice person. So I to all the people that I've offended, I'm sorry. I just no one wants to be put on a pedestal. He's the epitome of a fine young man, whatever that. I'm just I'm not that. I know that I've done good and bad.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about what I think that we probably know. Well, depending upon who you ask, but I know for me at least, what I know you from is Hollywood Squares, and you recently just got the chance to re-host Hollywood Squares in a different kind of fashion and form, like Zoom virtual, with a lot of big stars. And your original announcer, Shadow Stevens, was also a part of it as well.
Shadow Stevens. Yeah. Oh, I love Shadow Stevens' voice. He's also a great guy, and his wife and daughter.
Yeah.
It was a thrill for me. When I got Hollywood Squares in '86, of course Peter Marshall that's Hollywood Squares. Yeah. And then I guested with Peter, with Paul Lynde in the center square, and I was on one side and Karen Valentine on the other, and many great people. But then I got a chance to host it in '86. My agent called and said, you've always wanted to have a television series. I got that show for you. And I said, great, I'm going to be $6 Million Man. He said, no, it's a game show. And I turned it down. I can't believe, I said, you mean I'm not going to sing on the show or act? No, you're going to be a game show host. And I said, I'm not a theater arts major to be a game show host. What are we doing? And then a friend of mine, his name is Lane, said, are you crazy? Hollywood Squares is a proven format. If you don't like one of those 9 people, one of the 9 stars, then you were living under a rock. And so it's just a proven format, and you'll be the ringmaster for these 9 people, and you can set them up to be funny and all this. And it's a fun show. You ought to do it. You'll meet a lot of people. I don't go to Hollywood parties very much, and I never met so many famous people. So I mean, that's fun. That's fun to do. Absolutely. Creative people are interesting people. So yeah, I took it. I was basically doing my Peter Marshall impression, but nobody knew it because I don't do impressions well. Right? So I hosted it for 3 years, and then it went into reruns. So I call it 5 years because we had 2 years of reruns. But and then it went off, and then of course Tom Bergeron brought it back and did it for 6 years or something with Whoopi, maybe more than that. Tom was a great host. So, and we all know each other, Tom and Peter and I, and I'm proud to be a part of that group. So Peter was supposed to host a couple of these shows for the Hollywood Museum Squares, and I think he was unavailable. And so Tom Bergeron did some, and another very funny man, I can't think of his name right now, did some of them. But yeah, doing Hollywood Museum Square. By the way, if you go to the Hollywood Museum, of course, in Hollywood, you will see these shows. I think we made like, how many episodes? Do you know, Michael?
It was like
how many?
13, wasn't it?
Maybe so, more than 10. And it was really fun, but it was weird because of Zoom.
Yeah.
Just like if I came into your studio and you know, we did an interview there, it would be different. I mean, on Zoom, it's just different, you know.
Yeah.
So, and some of the dialogue that they wrote was just different enough from the object of the show is to get 3 squares in a row, cross it down or diagonal. That's how you win the game, and all that was just slightly different. And I'm used to when I'm saying, welcome to the Hollywood Square, circle against the square. And I look across and here's this big board, you know, of all the stars and the lights are flashing. Well, there's none of that. I've got little boxes with the stars in it. And so it was very different.
Yeah.
And it was a weird feeling, but it was Ed Gilbert Gottfried on my show. I love this guy. So many people. I shouldn't start naming names because I'll forget somebody. Oh, Jim J. Bullock was on the. They were just. Yeah. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to ask you. I mean, how was the whole Zoom aspect about it? And I guess that you had answered that. It felt kind of weird there.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. So so John, I want to ask you one more thing, and then I'll let you go here. But what advice? I mean, I'm trying to pursue game shows myself. Game shows has always been a huge passion of mine. But what advice do you give to someone who wants to get into the whole show business realm?
Well, hosting is a different ball game. My acting agent, my Broadway agent, my film agent. Now it's all separate people, or then it was too. The contacts that you have for the people like Wink Martindale and John Davidson and Peter Marshall and Tom Bergeron and all the people who are hosts, Chuck Woolery. We got these shows, I think, more by contacts than your agent. I mean, they don't put out a call saying we're going to do Hollywood Squares. Submit your hosts. Hosting, I got hosting Squares and $100,000 Pyramid because people knew of me and called me directly. A guy named Rick Rosner put me on Hollywood Squares actually, and I'd worked with him on the Mike Douglas show. So. And when I did That's Incredible, I was asked to host That's Incredible with Fran Tarkington and Kathy Lee Crosby. That came through Woody Frazier, who had worked on the Douglas show years ago and said, I know Davidson would be good for this. And so hosting is a different ball game. I tell you what I would do. If you want to be a host, I would start hosting beauty pageants, anything, anywhere is going to start hosting. Be a host on any level, you know, with your women's luncheon group. Host an event, host a fashion show, host anything, and just start doing that on any level. And I would make some video of you hosting, introducing people, interacting with people. And nowadays, of course, the internet and all social media, so that you get used to being a host. I would do that. Do you want to be an actor or do you want to be a host?
Host.
Yeah. And the other element, of course, your job, took me a while to realize this. Your job is to make the stars shine. That's the Merv Griffin motto. Go see Merv Griffin. He'll make the stars shine. It's not about you. It's not, and here's Michael Scott. It's Michael Scott is going to show you the best in these stars. He's going to make the stars shine. And that's what I tried to do. And once I got that helped me. The other thing is to speak one to one. Make sure that you're looking at a camera, but make it a person. You got to make sure that you're talking to that. You're not saying, and now that's not television. Television is one to one. Dick Clark taught me that. By the way, another great host, Dick Clark. And he did it by speaking one to people.
And one thing I did not know about you is that your parents actually married Dick and his wife.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. It was a Mormon wedding. No, it wasn't the three of them. Yeah. He married Dick Clark to his wife. He married Kenny Rogers to his wife. People that he'd met through my Christmas specials or through other television shows, and they found out that he was a minister, and he was just a wonderful minister. I mean, he was what a minister should be. He looked like it, he sounded like it, and just a fine man. Yeah, he did that.
And you mentioned Kenny Rogers. I know that was a personal friend of yours as well. You knew Kenny for quite some time.
I did. I think it's hard to have really close friends in the business. We hear about Don Rickles and Bob Newhart being so close over the years, which is kind of like that to me, that was kind of like an odd coupling. But apparently they were very close. It's hard to do that in show business. For one, if you're successful, we're gypsies. I mean, we're all over the world doing shows, and so it's hard to be able to actually get together. But I was close to Kenny Rogers for a while, and then he started really touring, and we just didn't see much of each other because he worked so hard and had such an incredible career.
Mm-hmm. His career went up and down, much like
yes,
yeah, much like how most stars their careers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, John, I appreciate you, sir, for coming on to the show. I hope to see you here in Branson. I know you have a theater here in Branson.
What do you mean here? You're in Branson now?
I'm in Kansas City. Well, actually Kansas City, Missouri, but I'm not too far away from Branson.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I spent three or 4 years there and in other people's theater. And then I had my own theater, and Jim Stafford gave me the great Jim Stafford, just a legend, gave me my start in his theater in Branson. And then I leased his theater and made it the John Davidson Theater for a while. Yeah. Branson is an incredible place, and it's still going strong.
It is. Yeah. We have a lot of great acts here. Tony Orlando and Don, and
Tony Orlando.
Yeah. The Osmond brothers are here. So we're just missing you, John.
Yeah. I'd love to come back. It's maybe it's a fun group. It's a fun group of people there. Everybody's out to have a good time.
Oh, and Barry Williams as well performs here as well. Barry Williams from the.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, John, thank you so much for your time, sir. And it's going to be so much fun to watch Hollywood Museum Squares.
Right. Me too. I've only seen one episode. I'd like to see them all.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Thank you.